Aurora Prime was a planet of green valleys, tall mountains, and endless forests. Its skies were clear, dotted with white clouds that moved slowly over silver rivers and sparkling lakes. Humans had lived here for decades, building cities that blended with nature. Technology was advanced but thoughtful. Machines hummed quietly, and energy grids were clean. Life seemed peaceful. Captain Elias Thorne walked along the edge of the cliff, overlooking the valley below. His uniform was simple but well kept, and his eyes were sharp. He had spent years training soldiers, teaching them strategy, and preparing for threats that until now had only existed in old military simulations. Yet today, a strange feeling tugged at him, a feeling that something big was coming. And then the sky darkened. It started as a shadow, a black smear that moved faster than any cloud. Then the humans below saw it. Enormous ships, silent and angular, cutting through the atmosphere. They were not like anything humans had built. They shimmered with energy shields and pulsed with a strange blue light. The alarms rang across the cities. People ran to shelters and defense stations. Drones lifted off, scanning the sky. Human soldiers scrambled to their posts. Elias's heart pounded, but he remained calm. "Form up," he ordered. His voice was steady, carrying the calm confidence of someone who had faced danger before. "This is not the time to panic. Remember your training." The ships landed in the valleys and forests with precision that made human eyes widen. Alien figures appeared, tall, muscular, with grayish skin and glowing eyes. These were the Zytrax, creatures feared across galaxies for their efficiency in war. Their armor shimmered with energy, and their weapons hummed with power beyond human understanding. From the first moment, the aliens moved with confidence. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. They assumed humans would scatter, run, and hide, but humans did not run. Elias signaled his unit, and they moved strategically, using trees, rocks, and hills as cover. Humans had fewer numbers and weaker weapons, but they had something the Zytrax did not: intelligence and creativity. They set traps, moved silently, and used the terrain to their advantage. The first clash was sudden. Alien warriors advanced with energy blades, and plasma weapons lit the air with streaks of bright blue light. Human rifles fired, but the shots mostly bounced off alien shields. It was clear the battle would not be won with strength alone. Elias ducked behind a rock as a blast passed over his head. His team moved beside him, following his commands with precision. "Split into squads," he ordered. "Hit their weak points, then fall back. Don't let them predict us." The aliens noticed immediately. They were not used to opponents who could think independently, who could adapt in real time. One Zytrax commander frowned, adjusting a device on his wrist. "They are not like other planets," he said in their harsh, clicking language. "They adapt. They think." Elias's team moved like shadows, disappearing behind hills and reappearing where the aliens least expected. Mines exploded under alien feet, and energy disruptors caused some of their shields to flicker. Each small victory gave humans courage, but they all knew the aliens had far greater power. One mistake could mean death. Amid the chaos, Elias saw a young soldier, barely out of training, stumble as a blast landed nearby. Without thinking, he grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety. "Stay close," he said. "Keep your mind sharp." The fight moved through the forests, across rivers, and into the open plains. Aliens were confident, their weapons deadly, but human soldiers kept adapting. They used simple tricks, smoke bombs, decoys, and sudden feints to confuse the Zytrax. Each human move surprised the aliens. Each human success made them more cautious. Then came the moment that would be remembered forever. A Zytrax warrior leaped from a hovering ship, energy blade raised high. It moved faster than the eye could follow. Humans froze. Even seasoned soldiers stepped back. The blade was designed to cut through any material, any defense. One strike could end a life instantly. Elias stood still. His heart raced, but his mind was clear. He had seen drills, simulations, and impossible situations before, and now here it was in reality, a weapon meant to kill him. The blade flew toward him, a streak of deadly light. For a second, everything slowed. Time stretched. Humans behind him held their breath. Aliens expected a scream, a dodge, a fall. Elias did something no one could believe. He caught the blade mid-air. His hands closed around the energy weapon, and it hummed, trying to cut through his grip. Sparks flew, lighting his face with a blue glow. The humans gasped. Some cheered quietly. Others simply stared in disbelief. The Zytrax froze. They had never seen a human stop an energy blade. It was impossible. Elias tightened his grip and twisted. The alien warrior hissed, retreating a step, unsure what to do. Elias held the blade steady, eyes locked on his opponent. "We are not weak," he said, voice calm but firm, "and we will not surrender." This single act changed everything. It was a signal that humans could not be underestimated. It showed that they had courage, reflexes, and strength of will that no weapon could easily defeat. The battle did not stop, but the momentum shifted. Humans, inspired by Elias's action, fought with renewed energy. They moved faster, thought faster, and refused to fall back. The aliens, on the other hand, hesitated. Confusion spread among their ranks. Their leaders exchanged signals, unsure how to proceed against such unexpected resistance. Elias released the blade, letting it hover in the air. He knew this was only the beginning. The war was far from over. The Zytrax had numbers, technology, and experience, but humans had something the aliens could not calculate: creativity, bravery, and unpredictability. As the sun set over Aurora Prime, the valley glowed with fires from the battle. Smoke drifted over forests, and the sounds of combat echoed through the mountains. But amid the destruction, hope burned brighter. Humans had shown that even in the face of overwhelming power, they could survive. Elias looked at his team, at the civilians helping each other, and at the young soldiers practicing moves they barely understood. "We have a long fight ahead," he said. "But today, we made them hesitate. That hesitation is our advantage. And as long as we fight together, there is no enemy we cannot face." The Zytrax commanders watched from their ships, their glowing eyes filled with doubt. They had come to conquer, to crush, to dominate. But in one brief moment they realized they had underestimated humanity. Elias did not celebrate. He knew more challenges awaited, but he also knew one thing with absolute certainty. The humans of Aurora Prime were not just survivors. They were warriors, and they were ready to defend their world, no matter the cost. The battle had begun, but the war for Aurora Prime, and perhaps the galaxy, had only just started. And somewhere deep in the alien fleet, a Zytrax commander muttered to his aides, "They caught the blade. This is impossible. We may have underestimated them. They are not just humans. They are something else." The sun had just risen over Aurora Prime, casting golden light over forests still smoking from the night's battle. The humans had survived, but the alien presence was stronger than ever. Massive Zytrax ships hung in orbit, their shadows stretching across valleys and plains. Humans knew this was only the beginning of a long and dangerous war. Captain Elias Thorne stood on a ridge overlooking the main valley. His armor bore scorch marks and scratches, reminders of the fight from the day before. Around him, his unit gathered quietly. They were tired but alert, their eyes scanning for any sign of alien activity. "Today we fight smart," Elias said. "Yesterday we showed them that humans are not easy prey. Today we make them regret every step they take on our planet." The humans moved swiftly through the forest, careful to avoid open spaces where the aliens' heavy weapons could strike without warning. Elias had learned something critical in the first battle. The Z-Tracks were strong, fast, and powerful, but they were predictable in their confidence. They expected humans to act like prey. They expected fear. Humans would give them neither. Ahead, a patrol of Z-Track scouts moved cautiously. They scanned with devices that emitted blue light, searching for life signatures. The humans waited silently, hidden among the trees. Elias signaled, and 2 soldiers hurled small EMP grenades into the patrol. The devices emitted a soft pulse, disabling the scouts' scanners. The aliens froze. They were trained for efficiency, for domination, for war against species that could not match their technology. Humans were proving different. They were unpredictable. They adapted. The humans attacked with precision. Rocks were thrown to distract, traps were triggered, and sudden movements forced the Z-Tracks to retreat. Each small success emboldened the human fighters. They were learning the rhythm of the alien soldiers, predicting their movements, and turning fear into advantage. Elias paused near a stream and looked at a young soldier, barely 17, crouched behind him. "Keep your eyes open," he said. "Fear is natural, but do not let it control you. You are stronger than you think." The boy nodded, gripping his rifle tightly. He had seen his home burned and his family flee the cities. He had felt the power of the aliens and wondered if humans could survive. Now, with Elias leading, he realized that courage and quick thinking could make even a single human a threat. Suddenly, a sharp hum echoed through the forest. Energy weapons powered up, and the air shimmered with blue light. A Z-Tracks warrior leaped from the shadows, energy blade raised. Humans scattered instinctively, but Elias stood firm. Time slowed in that moment. Memories of the previous day flashed through his mind. The impossible act of catching a blade mid-air. Could he do it again? The alien moved with speed, faster than any human could normally track. But Elias acted on instinct. He leapt forward, catching the blade with a firm grip. Sparks flew, illuminating his face. The Z-Tracks hissed in surprise, unable to understand how a human could stop a weapon designed to cut through anything. "Humans," the alien muttered, disbelief in its voice. "Impossible." Elias did not speak. He twisted the blade and pressed forward, forcing the alien to stumble backward. Behind him, his team took advantage of the distraction, disabling nearby alien drones and clearing a path through the forest. The humans cheered quietly, their morale soaring. The act was not just bravery, it was a message. Humans were not easily defeated. They were clever, fast, and fearless when it mattered most. The aliens retreated briefly, regrouping. From above, Z-Tracks ships hovered, scanning for threats. They were skilled warriors, but their training had not prepared them for humans who could think creatively under pressure. Elias gathered his team. "We cannot let them recover. They may be stronger, but we have advantage in strategy. We know the land. We know how to move where they cannot predict us. Let's use it." The humans moved silently through valleys and forests, setting traps and ambushes. They learned quickly. Simple tools became powerful weapons. Mirrors reflected energy beams, sound devices created illusions, and tripwires brought down patrols. Meanwhile, the aliens grew frustrated. Commander Vorak, a massive Z-Tracks officer, observed from a hovering ship. His eyes glowed as he watched humans adapt. They are not like others," he said to his aides. "They do not flee. They do not panic. They learn. Instantly. This is unacceptable. We expected obedience, not resistance." Back on the ground, Elias's team reached a narrow canyon. It was an ideal place for an ambush. "Here," Elias whispered. "We make our stand. They will think they can control the path, but we control it." They set explosives along the canyon walls and positioned themselves in hidden alcoves. When the first Zytrax units entered, the humans triggered the devices. The walls shook and rocks crashed down, scattering the aliens. Human sharpshooters hit exposed targets, and the Zytrax retreated again. Elias moved swiftly, ensuring no one on his side was harmed. He saw the difference between humans and aliens clearly. Humans valued life, even in battle. Their strength came not only from skill, but also from compassion and unity. As night fell, the humans returned to their temporary camp. Fires glowed softly in the darkness. Soldiers cleaned their weapons, treated minor injuries, and shared stories of courage. The mood was tense but hopeful. They had survived multiple clashes in one day. They had shown that humans could fight back against superior technology. Elias walked among his team. "Remember," he said, "this is just the beginning. They are strong, but they are not invincible. They underestimate us because they do not understand what makes humans special. Speed, strength, skill, they have many. But creativity, courage, and heart, that is ours alone." The team nodded, inspired by his words. They had learned something critical. Victory was possible, not through raw power alone, but through thinking differently, acting boldly, and working together. Meanwhile, in the alien fleet, Commander Vorak made a decision. "We cannot rely on brute force," he said. "Humans, they are unpredictable. We must study them, adapt our tactics. They may be stronger than we anticipated." His aides looked at him, uncertain. They had conquered countless planets, destroyed armies without effort. But humans were different. The Zytrax did not yet understand them, and that lack of understanding was dangerous. Back on the ground, Elias stood by the campfire holding a cup of water. He looked at the stars, wondering what the future held. The aliens had arrived, powerful and determined. The humans had survived, but the war was far from over. Yet for the first time, he felt hope, not just for survival, but for victory. Somewhere in the distance, a scout ship hummed as it passed through the forest. Elias's eyes followed it. He knew they would meet again, and next time they would have to be ready, not just to defend, but to strike strategically. That night, humans slept lightly, listening to the sounds of the forest and the distant hum of alien engines. They knew the war would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. But they also knew one undeniable truth. Humans were capable of extraordinary acts, and it had already begun. The legend of Elias catching the energy blade midair spread among the human ranks. Soldiers whispered it to each other. Children repeated it in hiding, and scientists marveled at the possibility. It became more than a story. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that humans were not weak, that they could face the impossible, and perhaps even win. By dawn, the humans were ready again. The Zytrax would come, and when they did, they would find that the people of Aurora Prime were no ordinary species. They were humans, clever, brave, and unyielding. And Elias Thorne, the man who caught the blade mid-air, would lead them into the fight. The morning sun broke over Aurora Prime, casting long shadows across the valleys scarred from the previous battles. The humans were tired but alive, and for the first time, many of them believed survival might not be enough. They could fight for victory. Captain Elias Thorne stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the main Zytrax encampment. His eyes narrowed as he watched alien soldiers patrol, their movements precise but predictable. Humans had discovered something critical. The Zytrax were not invincible. Their strength came from power and technology, but they underestimated human adaptability. That would be their greatest weakness. "Listen up," Elias said, gathering his team. "We are outnumbered, and they are stronger in firepower, but they are not as clever as us. Today, we show them what humans are capable of. We don't just fight. We think. We plan. We adapt. That is how we win." The team nodded, a mix of seasoned soldiers and younger recruits. Some were engineers, others medics, and a few were civilians who had refused to flee their homes. Each had a skill that could turn the tide in unexpected ways. The plan was simple yet bold. Humans would split into smaller units, each moving independently to confuse and distract the Z-Tracks. They would use the terrain, forests, rivers, and mountains, to their advantage, striking where the aliens least expected. Improvised traps, decoys, and technology scavenged from destroyed alien drones would amplify their effectiveness. As the units moved through the forests, Elias led one team toward a canyon where Z-Track's supply lines had been observed. Small drones hovered above, scanning for heat signatures. Elias signaled, and two engineers quietly released tiny magnetic devices that interfered with the drone's sensors. The devices blinked and whirred softly, causing the drones to hover aimlessly above the forest floor. The aliens were not prepared for human creativity. They had superior weapons and armor, but they had never fought a species that could turn everyday items into tools of war. Humans used mirrors to reflect energy beams, tripwires to disable patrols, and improvised EMP devices that short-circuited alien equipment. In the canyon, Elias's team lay in wait. Z-Track's soldiers marched along the narrow path, confident and unaware. Elias raised his hand, signaling his team. With precise timing, they triggered the traps. Rocks fell from the cliffs, disorienting the aliens, while energy pulses disabled shields on their weapons. Human sharpshooters picked off exposed targets, forcing the rest to retreat. Each encounter strengthened the humans' morale. They were learning, adapting, and proving that courage combined with intelligence could challenge even the most advanced technology. Soldiers whispered Elias's name, inspired by the memory of the blade caught mid-air. That act had shown them that humans could defy expectations, and now they were living it. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the planet, a group of civilians worked alongside engineers to turn ordinary tools into powerful weapons. Energy grids were rerouted to create electric traps along likely alien paths. Communication devices were hacked to send false signals, drawing Z-Track soldiers into ambushes. Every act of creativity amplified the humans' strength, and the aliens grew increasingly frustrated. Commander Vorak observed the chaos from his command ship. His eyes glowed with anger and disbelief. "They adapt too quickly," he said, his voice harsh and clipped. "Every move we anticipate is countered. They think faster than expected. They learn from every encounter. This is extraordinary." His aides looked uncertain. They had never encountered a species that could think so differently from their training. Across the galaxy, the Z-Tracks were feared because they assumed all other species would react predictably. Humans were proving that assumption wrong. Elias and his team moved from the canyon to a forested ridge. From their vantage point, they could see a Z-Tracks transport convoy heading toward a nearby city. "We hit them before they reached the civilians," Elias said. "We have the element of surprise." Using ropes, pulleys, and basic engineering knowledge, the humans rigged a series of weighted nets above the path. They camouflaged them with leaves and rocks, leaving the aliens unaware of the danger. When the convoy entered the trap, the nets fell, entangling the vehicles and disrupting the aliens' formation. The humans pressed their advantage. Small squads moved in from the sides, disabling remaining ships and forcing a retreat. Civilians who had hidden in nearby forests emerged to help, carrying supplies and first aid for injured soldiers. Every human action demonstrated courage, skill, and unity. Elias paused to observe his team. "This is what makes us strong," he said quietly. "Not just weapons or numbers, but thinking, working together, and never giving up. Remember that, and we can face anything." The Z-Tracks were shaken. Commander Vorak had never seen this level of coordination in humans. Their bravery, adaptability, and relentless creativity defied all logic. He called for reinforcements, but even the strongest troops hesitated, unsure how to respond to these unpredictable adversaries. Back at the human camp, morale soared. Stories of the canyon ambush spread quickly, and humans across Aurora Prime began coordinating smaller resistance groups. Civilians and soldiers shared strategies, teaching each other how to improvise and adapt. The planet's population, once fearful, now felt empowered. Elias spent time with his engineers, discussing the next phase. "We can't just react anymore," he said. "We need to anticipate them. We need to think 10 steps ahead. If we can combine our creativity with speed, we can keep them off balance. That is how we win this war." The night brought a temporary calm. Fires glowed in the darkness as humans planned, repaired, and rested. Soldiers kept watch, scanning the horizon for signs of the alien fleet. Above them, Z-Track ships hung silently, observing, calculating, and trying to understand this species that defied their expectations. Elias walked among his team, quietly checking on each member. Some were exhausted, others anxious. "You have done well today," he said, "but tomorrow we must be smarter. The Z-Tracks will adapt, and so must we. Remember this: they have power, but we have mind, heart, and courage. That is more dangerous than any weapon." Elsewhere, young humans watched the night sky, inspired by the courage of their protectors. They whispered stories of Elias catching the blade mid-air, repeating the tale to each other. It was no longer just a story. It was a symbol of hope, a spark that reminded every human that they were not helpless. Commander Vorak convened his officers in the command ship's central chamber. "We must change tactics," he said firmly. "Humans are more than we anticipated. They are intelligent, adaptive, and courageous. We cannot win by force alone. Observe them, study them, learn how they think. Only then can we regain control." His officers nodded, though unease lingered. Across their fleet, the aliens had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they faced an enemy that could outthink them, outmaneuver them, and refuse to yield. Back on the ground, Elias prepared his team for the next phase. They would continue striking at supply lines, creating distractions, and protecting civilians. Each act, no matter how small, strengthened humanity's reputation and confidence. As he gazed at the distant mountains, Elias felt a growing sense of pride and responsibility. Humans had survived impossible odds before, but now they were proving something more profound. They could fight, adapt, and even overcome beings far stronger than themselves. And in every heart of every human soldier, a single thought took root. We are not weak. We are humans, and we can win this war. The night ended with quiet determination. Aurora Prime's forests and valleys were scarred but alive. Humans were united, inspired, and ready for the challenges ahead. They had seen what courage, intelligence, and teamwork could achieve, and somewhere in the alien fleet, Commander Vorak knew something he could not admit aloud. The humans were not just surviving, they were learning, adapting, and becoming a force that might one day drive the Z-Tracks back into the stars. Aurora Prime's forests were quiet in the early morning, but the tension in the air was sharp, like the calm before a storm. Captain Elias Thorne led his team along a narrow ridge overlooking a valley where the Z-Tracks had concentrated their forces. From above, alien ships glimmered, scanning the terrain with energy sensors. The humans had learned to move quickly and silently, but today's challenge would test them like never before. "This is it," Elias whispered to his team. "We strike where they least expect us, but remember, we are not just soldiers. We are humans. We think, we adapt, we survive. That is our edge." The plan was daring. The humans would divide into small squads, each striking different targets simultaneously. Some would disable communication arrays, others would sabotage supply lines, and one team, led by Elias himself, would engage the Zytrax commander directly. Commander Vorak will expect attacks, but he will not expect a direct human strike, Elias explained. We need to surprise him and show him the cost of underestimating us. The team moved through the forest with perfect coordination. Every step was calculated, every sound minimized. The humans had learned to use the land as a weapon. Fallen logs became barricades, rivers masked their movement, and the thick canopy blocked alien sensors. As they approached the central valley, the first line of Zytrax patrols appeared. They were larger and more heavily armored than the scouts the humans had faced before. Their energy weapons hummed with deadly intensity. Elias signaled a halt. He scanned the patrol, noting the timing of their steps, the rhythm of their communication, and the weaknesses in their formation. With a subtle nod, his team split into smaller units, each executing a pre-planned maneuver. The first explosion came from above, a trap set by human engineers months before, now triggered with perfect timing. Rocks crashed down on the aliens, disorienting them. At the same moment, sharpshooters struck from hidden positions, forcing the aliens to scatter. The humans pressed forward, moving like shadows through the valley. Every move demonstrated creativity, skill, and courage. They did not rely solely on weapons. They relied on intelligence. Every action was calculated to maximize effect and minimize risk. Meanwhile, Commander Vorak observed from his command ship, his glowing eyes narrowing. "They are different," he muttered. "They do not follow expected patterns. They are clever. We must act carefully." Elias's team reached the outskirts of the central command area where Vorak himself awaited. The Zytrax commander's presence radiated authority and power. His armor shimmered with energy, and his blade pulsed with deadly light. He was confident that no human could stand against him in single combat. Elias approached with steady steps, holding his ground. "This ends today," Vorak said, his voice resonating with controlled anger. "No human can defeat me. Surrender, and I may spare your people." Elias did not hesitate. "We do not surrender," he said firmly. "And no weapon, no matter how advanced, can break our spirit." The battle began with a clash of energy blades. Vorak struck first, moving with speed and precision, but Elias was faster than expected. He dodged, deflected, and used the momentum of Vorak's strikes against him. Every move was calculated, every reaction timed perfectly. The humans watching from a distance held their breath. They had trained, adapted, and learned, but now they saw the full measure of human ingenuity in action. Elias was not just defending, he was anticipating, countering, and turning Vorak's own power against him. Sparks flew as blade met blade. The sound echoed across the valley, a sharp reminder of the stakes. Vorak's confidence faltered as Elias redirected attacks with skill that no Zytrax had predicted. The human's instincts, honed by years of experience and creativity, gave him an advantage even against a technologically superior opponent. Meanwhile, other human squads carried out their missions. Communication arrays were disabled, supply lines disrupted, and alien reinforcements delayed. Every action compounded the confusion among Zytrax forces. They were powerful, but they were being outmaneuvered at every turn. Elias pressed forward, closing the distance. Vorak swung with lethal intent, but Elias caught the blade once again mid-air. Sparks flew, illuminating his determined face. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The Zytrax commander's eyes widened in disbelief. He had underestimated the human's reflexes, courage, and skill. "You! This is impossible!" Vorak hissed. Elias did not respond. He twisted the blade, redirecting energy away from himself, forcing Vorak to stumble. At the same time, human sharpshooters disabled support drones hovering above. The aliens were trapped in a moment they had not prepared for. Elias pressed his advantage. With every movement, he demonstrated human adaptability, intelligence, and courage. It was not brute strength that won the day. It was creativity, timing, and relentless focus. The battle reached its peak when Vorak attempted a final strike, aiming to overwhelm Elias with raw power. The human soldier anticipated the move, sidestepped, and redirected the energy blade against the commander. Vorak staggered, barely maintaining balance, and for the first time, his confidence wavered. From the valley, Zitrak's soldiers watched in shock. Their leader, the embodiment of strength and authority, had been outmaneuvered by a single human. Fear and doubt spread quickly among their ranks. The invincible image of the Zitrax began to crumble. Elias held the blade steady, facing Vorak without fear. "Humans are not weak," he said. "We adapt, we think, and we fight together. That is our strength. You underestimated us, and that is why you will lose." The surrounding humans erupted in a coordinated strike, forcing Vorak to retreat. He realized he could not predict, control, or dominate this species as easily as he had expected. For the first time, the Zitrax commander understood the full danger of human ingenuity. The humans had achieved more than survival. They had demonstrated that even against overwhelming power, strategy, courage, and intelligence could prevail. The valley echoed with cheers and the hum of victory, but Elias knew the war was far from over. As the sun set, Elias gathered his team. "Today, we showed the Zitrax what humans are capable of," he said. "We proved that strength is not always in weapons or numbers. It is in heart, mind, and unity. Remember this, because tomorrow we may face even greater challenges." The humans celebrated quietly, tending to the wounded and repairing equipment. The sense of hope and pride was palpable. Across Aurora Prime, civilians and soldiers alike began to believe that they could defend their planet and push back against even the most advanced alien forces. Meanwhile, in the Zitrax fleet, Commander Vorak convened his officers. His glowing eyes reflected anger and doubt. "We underestimated them," he said. "Humans. They are unpredictable. They adapt. They fight together, and they refuse to surrender. We must reconsider our strategy. We cannot defeat them through power alone." The aides looked uneasy. Across the galaxy, the Zitrax were known for swift, decisive victories. Now they faced a species that challenged every expectation. Humans had shown that courage, creativity, and determination could overcome technology and brute strength. Elias looked at the stars that night, reflecting on the day's victories. Aurora Prime was scarred, but alive. Humans had proven their worth not just through battle, but through intelligence, teamwork, and bravery. And somewhere in the alien fleet, Vorak knew what no human needed to say aloud. They had lost the certainty of victory. Humans had shown the impossible was possible. The blade caught mid-air was not just an act of courage, it was a declaration. The humans of Aurora Prime were not just defenders. They were warriors, clever, brave, and unyielding, and they would continue to fight, adapt, and ultimately triumph. As Elias prepared for the next day, he felt a quiet determination settle over him. The war was far from over, but humanity had found its edge. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans were a force that could not be ignored. Aurora Prime glowed under the morning sun, the valleys and forests still scarred from the battles that had raged for days. Smoke drifted lazily into the sky, but the humans who had survived were alive, and stronger than ever. Captain Elias Thorne stood at the edge of the main valley looking over his team. They were tired, but their eyes shone with determination. "The Zitrax will return," Elias said quietly. "But we have shown them something they did not expect. Humans fight differently. Humans think differently. Humans never give up." The alien fleet, massive and imposing, hovered in orbit above the planet. Commander Vorak observed from his flagship, his glowing eyes filled with frustration. Each encounter with the humans had eroded the confidence of his soldiers. They had superior technology, stronger weapons, and experience in countless conquests. But humans had proven unpredictable. "They adapt," Vorak said, speaking to his officers. "They fight together, they learn, and they do not fear. This is unlike anything we have encountered. Continuing the war may cost more than we can afford." His aides hesitated, uneasy. Across their fleet, the soldiers whispered among themselves, the memory of the human who caught a blade mid-air spreading quickly. That single act, repeated in stories and whispered in fear, had shaken their belief in guaranteed victory. On the ground, Elias gathered his team. "Today we push them back," he said. "Not just with weapons, but with strategy. Every move counts. Every human here is part of this fight. Remember, we are clever, united, and brave. That is what makes us strong." The humans moved swiftly. Scouts observed the alien fleet, noting supply lines, patrol patterns, and vulnerable points in their defenses. Engineers and scientists had worked tirelessly to prepare improvised weapons, traps, and communication disruptors. Civilians, once hidden in fear, now aided the soldiers, carrying supplies and tending to the wounded. Aurora Prime had become a planet where every human was part of the defense. Elias led his team toward a central landing zone where the Zytrax had stationed heavy weapons. The aliens had expected resistance, but not like this. Humans were everywhere, moving unpredictably, striking quickly, and disappearing before the aliens could react. As the humans advanced, Vorak deployed his elite guards. Each was trained in the deadliest combat techniques known to the Zytrax. Their energy blades glowed menacingly, and their armor shimmered with defensive power. But the humans were not afraid. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger with every encounter. Elias led the strike team with calm precision. "Move in pairs," he instructed. "Distract, disable, and retreat if necessary, but never stop thinking. Every move matters." The first clash was intense. Zytrax soldiers struck with speed and force, but the humans anticipated every step. Tripwires disabled shields, small explosives scattered formations, and sharpshooters struck from hidden positions. Each human act was calculated, every movement deliberate. The aliens, trained for war, were caught off guard by creativity and strategy rather than strength alone. Elias reached the central area, where Commander Vorak waited. The alien leader's presence radiated authority, but his confidence had been shaken. He raised his energy blade, its hum cutting through the air. "Humans," he said, his voice echoing, "you are clever, but cleverness will not save you. Surrender, and perhaps you will live." Elias did not flinch. "We do not surrender," he said firmly. "And strength is more than weapons. It is courage, unity, and intelligence. That is something you cannot destroy." The duel began. Sparks flew as blades collided, energy crackling with every strike. Vorak moved with lethal intent, but Elias countered with agility, anticipating each attack. He used the momentum of Vorak's own strikes, redirecting energy and forcing the Zytrax commander off balance. From the sides, human teams executed their plans flawlessly. Supply lines were destroyed, alien drones disabled, and reinforcements delayed. The Zytrax soldiers were in chaos. Their technology was powerful, but they could not predict humans who could think, adapt, and act with courage. Elias pressed forward, closing the distance. He caught Vorak's blade mid-air, the act a symbol of human skill and bravery. Sparks lit the valley, reflecting in the eyes of every human watching. The legend of the human who caught a blade mid-air became reality once again, inspiring awe and courage. "You! This is impossible!" Vorak hissed, stumbling. For the first time, his confidence faltered. Humans had shown that skill, creativity, and courage could match even the most advanced weapons. Elias did not speak. He pressed the advantage, maneuvering with speed, precision, and strategy. Vorak's attacks became desperate, wild, and predictable. The humans had learned, adapted, and turned the Zytrax's power against them. With a final calculated strike, Elias forced Vorak to retreat. The human team advanced, securing the area. The Zytrax soldiers, witnessing their leaders faltering, began to hesitate. Fear, doubt, and confusion spread among their ranks. The once invincible aliens realized they could be defeated, not by sheer power, but by humans who thought, acted, and fought together. The valley erupted with cheers. Humans had not only defended their planet, they had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most advanced adversaries. Civilians and soldiers embraced, tending to the wounded and repairing defenses. Aurora Prime's spirit had been tested, and it had triumphed. From orbit, the Zytrax fleet prepared to retreat. Commander Vorak knew that continuing the war would lead to further losses. The humans were not just survivors, they were warriors, clever, brave, and united. The cost of fighting them further was too high. Elias watched as the alien ships began to lift off. A quiet pride settled over him. "They will remember this," he said softly. "They underestimated us, and they have learned the hard way that humans are not weak." The human teams regrouped. Injured soldiers were treated, equipment was repaired, and plans were made to rebuild the cities and towns damaged during the conflict. Civilians emerged from hiding, carrying supplies, helping with repairs, and celebrating survival. Aurora Prime was alive, thriving, and free. Elias walked through the camp, nodding at soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike. "Today we showed the Zytrax what humans are capable of," he said. "Not just bravery or strength, but thinking, adapting, and working together. That is our edge. That is what makes us human." News of the victory spread quickly across the planet. Stories of the human who caught the energy blade mid-air became legendary. Children whispered it to each other, soldiers repeated it in training, and scientists marveled at the courage and skill shown in battle. The act symbolized human ingenuity, courage, and unity, a reminder that humans could face the impossible and succeed. Commander Vorak, aboard his flagship, made a final observation. "They are extraordinary," he admitted to his aides. "We cannot dominate them through force. Humans fight differently, and we underestimated them. Retreat for now, but never forget what we have seen. They are a force unlike any other." The Zytrax fleet lifted off, retreating into the stars. The humans watched them go, knowing that this victory was not just for Aurora Prime. It was a statement to the galaxy. Humanity had survived, adapted, and triumphed against a superior foe. As night fell over the planet, humans celebrated quietly. Fires burned, laughter echoed, and songs of courage filled the air. Soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike reflected on what had been achieved. Humanity had not only defended a world, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome any challenge. Elias stood on the ridge, gazing at the horizon. Aurora Prime was battered but alive. Humans had faced a superior force and emerged victorious. They had shown the galaxy that they were not weak, that they were clever, courageous, and united. In the coming days, humans began to rebuild, strengthen defenses, and train for the future. The memory of catching the blade mid-air became a symbol of human potential, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, courage and intelligence could shine brighter than any weapon. The war had ended, but humanity's legend had only begun. Across the galaxy, tales of Aurora Prime and the human who defied the Zytrax spread quickly. Humans were no longer seen as weak, defenseless creatures. They were respected, feared, and admired for their ingenuity, bravery, and unity. Elias walked among his people. quietly proud. "We fought not just with weapons, but with heart and mind," he said. "Remember this. Remember who we are. And always fight for what is right, no matter the odds." Aurora Prime was safe, its people alive, its spirit unbroken. Humanity had triumphed, not through brute force, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. The legend of Elias Thorne and the human who caught a blade mid-air would live forever, inspiring generations to come. And as the stars twinkled above Aurora Prime, humans knew one undeniable truth. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, they could rise, adapt, and prevail. Humanity had won.